And we are live.
Hey, I am Old New Dude, and he is.
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son, and this is Wednesday. We do theory discussions on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Did you do any of the homework for looking at eyes and things?
No, I did not. I'm not gonna lie.
I didn't do much aside from what we talked. We did briefly talk about it a little bit on the following stream because that stream ended 30 minutes. Well, I mean, the chapter coverage ended at 30 minutes, and we spent the last half of it. So, um, yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to add at this point.
Yeah.
Chris the Crow's waving from the wall. And where were we here? So I wanted to finish off because we were almost done with the Toodles, the definitive version of my Howland Reed post, and but we got down. We were about to read the final postscript. P.S. Bonus high level tinfoil. And if
Oh
it's
yeah,
Toodles high level tinfoil, it's definitely worth discussing. So.
definitely.
Um, So let's go ahead and cover this last section here. The fact that Bowen Marsh is clearly a Cranagman, probably with the blood of the old Marsh kings, has some interesting global consequences. Those who read my essay on the Gemstone Emperors may remember my argument that the Bloodstone Emperor was both a proto-Reed Marsh king, bloodstone being moss green in color like Jojen's eyes, and b Azor High, whereas the Amethyst Empress was both a Dane and the Bloodstone Emperor's Nissa Nissa. Well, and that certainly it's definitely set up that the Amethyst Empress was Nissa Nissa. Um,
Yeah.
Chris Crow and Henlos as a central excellent. Good to have you
Hello.
here. Um, yeah, and I'm definitely. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that the Amethyst Empress is Nissa Nissa. 100 days and 100 nights he labored on the third blade, and as it glowed white hot in the sacred fires, he summoned his wife. Nissa Nissa, he said to her, for that was her name, bare your breast, and know that I love you best of all that is in this world. She did this thing. Why, I cannot say. And Azor Ahai thrust the smoking sword through her living heart. It is said that her cry of anguish and ecstasy left a crack across the face of the moon, but her blood and her soul and her strength and her courage all went into the steel. Such is the tale of the forging of Lightbringer, the red sword of heroes. And as we said, when John looks this up, it specifically talks about Nissa Nissa. And so despite the fact that Preston did a stream a couple months ago claiming that the Clash of Kings prophecy was not the same as the that does not appear to be the case, right? So anyway, the point is, it was specifically about forging Lightbringer and how Nissa Nissa went into the sword and he sacrificed his own wife. So um, anyway, continuing on with Toodles. I happen to be of the firm conviction that Jon Snow is Lightbringer personified, a Mithras figure. I unpublished work on this idea that goes far beyond the posts of Westeros.org poster Schmendrick, who first proposed the idea in detail. Unlike Schmendrick, however, I do not buy R plus L equals J. Stave is a well-executed red herring that's obtained the currency of fact because of social dynamics and, lately, a reputedly terrible television show. Now, what does Bowen Marsh, scion of the line of the Bloodstone Emperors, and thus an unlikely but unmistakable analog to Azor Ahai, do at the end of A Dance with Dragons? He plunges his blade into Jon Snow, aka Lightbringer, who will, as a consequence, be reborn, aka reforged. John lives in a room with a friggin' forge in it, for Christ's sake. Assuming that a Song of Ice and Fire once again rhymes with its history, this so happens to suggest something about Jon Snow's maternity that so happens to coincide perfectly with my pre-existing convictions. That is, if Bone Marsh is a kind of analog to the Marsh Kings and thus to Azor Ahai, Jon should be a kind of analog to the Amethyst Empress, despite also being Lightbringer because his history rhymes, it doesn't repeat. Bone Marsh is a marsh, right? Which would make Jon a female Dane, a la Nissa Nissa? Obviously not, but the son of a woman of House Dane, why, that's happens to be exactly who I believe Jon Snow is. Anyway, he's a Brandon believer because he he buys um, the logic that I would argue that George's mentor plays off of, that it can't be what you first think. And as we've said here, many occasions that's actually the opposite of the way Gene Wolfe writes. Gene Wolfe gives you an idea, proves to you that it's not quite right, gives you an alternative that's completely different, but there's some way to get around the proof that it's not quite right.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so people who dismiss things as, oh, it can't be that because that's the first idea presented. No, that's exactly how it works with Gene Wolfe, who is George's mentor.
Right.
So we said we would also give Blue Lemons a chance, and when I pulled up, it doesn't look like it links to the. I pulled up the Blue Lemons post on it, and where she says announces her completion, and where is it? I don't see the link to the actual. I don't see the link to the Sweet Sunray piece. So no, have to search that. Sweet Sunray, Howland Reed, Shadrich. Uh, Sweet Ice and Fire Sunray. There we go. That's going to be the one I want. Okay. All right. So this is sweeticeandfiresunray.com/tag/Howland Reed. It's got the same title as the post on Blue Lemon's site, but Blue Lemons has this hosted at Sweet Ice and Fire Sunray. Anyway, so let's go through her version of the Howland Reed post. I think it's worth doing it because it's a little. She's not quite as good crazy as Toodles. She's a little more conventional in her in her analysis, but it still comes to the same basic conclusion as far as Howland Reed, the elder brother, and Sandor Clegane. So I think it's worth looking at this post as well here.
Right.
3 hedge knights: Howland Reed, elder brother, and Sandor Clegane. Their gallantry is yet to be demonstrated. The winds of winter prediction that a glamour spell disguises the beast as a beauty. Elaine laughed. Are you louts? She said, teasing. Why, I took the 3 of you for gallant knights. Knights they are, said Peter. Their gallantry has yet to be demonstrated, but we may hope. And of course, there's a certain irony there if they're not actually knights. But anyway, allow me to present Sir Byron, Sir Morgarth, and Sir Shadrick. Sirs, the Lady Elaine, my natural and very clever daughter, with whom I must needs confer, if you'll be so good as to excuse us. They never told me you were clever. Anyway, sorry.
No.
What?
Oh, did you catch that?
What?
My very clever natural daughter, giving them a warning to not expose too much.
As if he knows who they are, and we've questioned, and we need to get back to Toodles and his Tyreek, and why he thinks that this actually looks like Tyreek Lannister, which fits nicely with our embrace of the Dragon Demands post of why he thinks Littlefinger and not Dorcas Ferris is the one who actually has Tyreek stashed somewhere. So it would fit in nicely because theoretically he should at some point bring Tyreek to himself if that's the case, right? So even though we don't think that the appearance and the age seem to make sense, Toodles has looked at this and it does fit our idea of how the narrative of the story should work. So it's interesting to me. So at some point we probably need to cover Toodles and why he thinks that that
I would look in the future in Winds of Winter. Any reference to House Lannister when involving the Hound being glamored, the appearance, any indication, hair color, eye color, facial.
And so he may be trying to say to the person who he thinks is Tyreek Lannister, don't let her know that you're Tyreek Lannister. That could be part of why he's warning them that she's very clever.
Right. Yeah. But what I said stands. I mean, him calling her very clever in their presence is giving them a warning, saying, "Hey, don't try too much crazy stuff around this girl because she's gonna figure it out."
Yep. If you will be so good as to excuse us. The 3 knights bowed and withdrew, though the tall one with the blonde hair kissed her hand before taking his leave. Sweet one, her father said gently, listen to me when you're old enough. I will. This is Ned talking now. We're back to Game of Thrones. I will make you a match with a High Lord who's worthy of you. someone brave and gentle and strong. He was going to take me back to Winterfell and marry me to some hedge knight. Sansa 4, Game of Thrones, on her misremembering her father's words. Interesting. Anyway,
Yeah.
first, the acknowledgments. This essay is possible because of the original post here by the invaluable contributor to the Westeros.org forums, Bemused, in August of 2016. Bemused presented the case for the identities of Sir Shadrick and Sir Morgarth being Hal and Reed and the elder brother, respectively. I was inclined to agree and even was able to find evidence to expand upon that idea. The only point of disagreement was on the identity of Sir Byron the Beautiful, who I am proposing is Sandor Clegane under a glamour. This essay sets out to show how this is even possible, how these three men work together in the plot, that this is what GRM actually intends to happen, and to lay out the textual evidence and clues as clearly as possible. Other forum contributors must be thanked for their astute reading and dogged assistance in building this theory are Sweet Sunray and Ashes of Westeros by the Blue-Eyed Wolf. And you may have seen her on Twitter or Blue Sky as Blue Lemons. She's on the Silent Sister podcast. Anyways, Blue Lemons from the Silent Sister podcast. She goes by a number of different names. Part 1, the importance of reading the three as one. Before exploring the individual identities of our hedge knights, we should first look at how GRM intends for us to view them as a team. Even though it is Shadrick who we will be introduced to first in Brienne's A Feast for Crows POV, the next few times we see him will be in the company of Morgarth and Byron. In Elaine 2 of A Feast for Crows, and in Elaine, the Winds of Winter sample chapter. It's written as if we're supposed to both see them and unsee them as Sansa's attention is drawn elsewhere. Because the author places the men together in consecutive order, we should be considered not just their individual identities, but also considering how they will fit together logically and thematically in the story. They should harmonize well together, with each contributing something important for the task at hand. This makes the name Shadrick all the more a significant choice if we look at the similarities with the biblical Shadrick and his companions Meshach and Abednego from the book of Daniel. Just as a brief paraphrase of the story, those are the Babylonian names they've taken as appointed officials in the court of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. Their real Hebrew names are Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The king builds a golden statue and commands that all of his officials must bow down before it on pain of execution in a fiery furnace. Of course, the three, being Hebrew and godly men, refuse to do so. When they are set to burn in the furnace, they are protected by God for their faithfulness, as depicted by a mysterious fourth man in there with them, referred to as appearing like the Son of God. They walk about the flames unharmed and eventually escape. So in the story, we have themes of three godly men under assumed names, a king that appoints them to positions in his court, the king will be defied, a fourth man who will join them, and an unexpected escape by supernatural means. These themes will become much more clearly fitting as we explore the clues in Brienne and Sansa's A Feast for Crows arcs. This is definitely a different take.
Yeah.
There are a few key points we should keep in mind for the Hedge Knight team, even if they're exactly what they appear to be and only out to kidnap Sansa for ransom. Although I do think he did mention this part, by the way. I do think that Toodles did mention this part, but I don't think he went into as much depth as to how that fits thematically and with them and them working together and so forth.
Yeah.
For any plan, rescue or kidnapping to work, Littlefinger must believe they are exactly the hired swords they appear to be for him to be completely at ease and to allow them around his daughter. I don't know. We just discussed the fact that he's actually warning them, so he may know that they're not exactly what they appear.
Right. Which I go again, even though I might get shade on this or whatever, until the Littlefinger's true plans or the reason he makes the moves he makes are given to us. Granted, he might be a peckerhead, but the person pulling his strings, because he's a piece, not a player, his moves may actually line up to save mankind from the long night. Yeah, he might know who they are, but the reasons why he allows them there or
Well, I do think this whole story is supposed to be sort of like the Avengers, where there's a some time travel and or prophecy, look ahead, make moves. This is the one way that things play out that need to play out in order for us to save the world, kind of thing, right?
Right.
Which means that everybody, in a sense, is being manipulated to save the world.
Yep.
Uh, Littlefinger must believe that there's no way the Hedge Knights could know who Elaine really is. Okay, yeah, maybe. Logically, there must be at least one member of the team that can positively ID Sansa through a disguise or physical changes brought on by time and puberty. Even if they are kidnapping her, there's no reward for bringing the wrong girl back to King's Landing. We know by the fact that they were hired, came back with Littlefinger from Gulltown, spent hours in his solar drinking and talking, have been personally introduced to Elaine, and they have, by the Winds of Winter sample chapter, spent months at the gates of the moon without any cause for suspicion, means all of the above points are true. If the Hedge Knights are in fact under false identities, Littlefinger could not in any way be previously familiar with any one of them, or he'd be immediately suspicious of their presence and intentions. I still say I'm not totally sold on that. And as you said, he specifically is warning them, so he may be aware that one of them isn't, that one or more of them aren't who they appear. He
Right.
cannot be able to identify them as anyone other than the identities they have presented. So she claims, but like I said, I'm not entirely sold on that. Shattuck succeeded in finding Sansa where all others had failed. This means he found the right information that led him to Sansa. How he got that information is a critically important question to answer. That is, I agree with that. Like, how could he have possibly figured this out? Well, if he talked to the elder brother, he would have figured it out. And as we are going to see, the, there's strong implication that the elder brother is, in fact, um, what's it? Can't remember which one it is. Anyway, we'll get there.
Hmm.
In this part, we'll be looking at the evidence in favor of Sir Shattuck being an ally and friend to Sansa, no matter if he is Howland Reed, someone else entirely, or simply the Mad Mouse. These clues will also directly connect him to association with Sandor Clegane, an obvious ally to both Stark girls. But first, and as equally important, we need to examine the reasons for Brienne being an unreliable narrator when it comes to analyzing Shattuck through her POV. Brienne kept her face a mask to hide her dismay. Who is this Sansa Stark, and why do you seek her? For love, why else? She furrowed her brow. Love? Aye, love of gold. Unlike your good Sir Creighton, I did fight upon the Blackwater, but on the losing side. My ransom ruined me. You know who Varys is, I trust. The eunuch has offered a plump bag of gold for this girl you've never heard of. I am not a greedy man. If some oversized wench would help me find this naughty child, I would split the spider's coin with her. And she's put in different colors of the text some of these things to emphasize them, like for love. Unlike your good Sir Creighton, I did fight upon the Blackwater. I'm not a greedy man. Anyway, this conversation Bran has upon meeting Sir Shattuck is often cited as damning proof of him being simply a bounty hunter if we take it at face value. There's subtle details here that indicate his motivations are not actually greedy, but helpful even to Brienne herself. Shattuck is telling her, actually warning her, that Sir Creighton and Sir Illifer are liars and frauds. This is something Shattuck assesses within moments of meeting them, which should be a confirmation of most readers' first impressions of the two. As we shall see from the examples presented, Brienne will show a persistent pattern in A Feast for Crows of reading people wrong. Therefore, she's an unreliable narrator in assessing Sir Shattuck, and we should not fall into the trap of taking a POV character's word as accurate without supporting evidence. Here's a rundown of Brienne's inability to read others accurately. She fails to be suspicious of the grandiose and dubious claims of Creighton Longbow and his partner, Illifer the Penniless. After being with them a short time, she refers to them as decent men, but their knightly status is likely fake, as Brienne admits herself she's never heard of them, or the knights they claim to have slain at the Blackwater, nor are their sigils recognizable to her. Yet it never occurs to her to press them with more pointed questions or to even be particularly wary. So many dead soldiers in the war, it isn't difficult to find bits of armor to pass oneself off as a hedge knight. They're clearly using her as she pays their way at the inn at the Old Stone Bridge. This is after the innkeeper makes plain that Creighton is a good-for-nothing freeloader. While they don't appear to be as terrible as most outlaws, they do seem to be looking for the next big score. It would therefore be highly likely they would betray Brienne to get their hands on Sansa. That much should be obvious to the reader as much as it is to Shadrick. Even much later on her journey, she will still think back that perhaps she had made a mistake in abandoning Sir Creighton and Sir Illifer. They had seemed like honest men. What what makes them what makes them so honest to her if she even admits she can't verify their story? It's most likely because she sees them as simply old, vain, and ridiculous. Therefore, they're harmless. So harmless then translates to seemingly decent and honest for her. She tersely notes, but immediately forgets the boy. And by the way, Shadrick makes it clear that he doesn't think they're anything to fear either.
Right.
She tersely notes, but immediately forgets the boy on the piebald horse, who turns out to be Podrick Payne. It is mentioned 3 times across Brienne 1 and 2. It takes a fourth brush with him before it finally dawns on her she's seen him before and should take an interest. She constantly thinks of Nimble Dick Crab as a murderous type, but he actually turns out to be just a starving petty con man who jumped at the opportunity for a little coin. However, unlike Creighton, he's described as scrawny and ill-fed. Nimble Dick is telling her the truth as he knew it about fooling a fool who will turn out to be Shagwell with brave companions, not Dantos Hollard. He only tells her about seeing 2 girls with the fool because Brienne gave him leading questions with promise of more coin. But what else does he do that warrants so much mistrust from her? Nothing. Well, I would argue that the fact that he fooled a fool implies that he's trying to fool her too. But anyway, the worst thing he does
did
is
try to get to the gold before, and
yeah. He is a con man who thinks that he left 2 highborn girls to basically die. So you shouldn't really be trusting him. But anyway, the worst thing he does is rattle Podrick with colorful stories by the campfire of Squishers and his ancestor Sir Clarence Crabbe. Bryn will realize that after poor Dick's gruesome death at the hands of Shagwell that she should have trusted him. It's true that she comes to that conclusion, but I think that's just as wrong as these other examples. Although she has reason to be doubtful of Sir Hyle Hunt at first for a cruel game at Highgarden, his actions thereafter are those of a helper and someone who wants to improve Brienne's opinion of him. He carries the stinking, rotting heads of the Bloody Mummers all the way back to Maidenpool, which Brienne believes he plans to claim the credit for himself. Instead, he gives Brienne and Podrick full credit for slaying the outlaws, publicly testifying to her bravery and skill. He stands up to Randall Tarley and leaves his service to join her and seems genuinely attracted to her despite the teasing. The reward for finding Sansa Stark he speaks of is then likely not gold, but earning Brienne's favor and her accepting him as a suitor. He also makes the auspicious suggestion to seek out Septon Maribald. She continues to think the worst of Hyle throughout, but her opinion begins to change after he helps her defend the orphans against Forge and Biter. She even defends him before they're about to be hanged by Lady Stoneheart and the Brotherhood Without Banners, and that's true. So she does finally seem to have come around. To sum up, we have good reason to doubt Brienne's first impressions of Sir Shadrick because she nearly gets everyone she encounters in A Feast for Crows wrong. Sweet Sunray has noticed Brienne shows a pattern in her internal monologue of being prone to thinking in overly literal terms. She fails to pick up on sarcasm. She has no ear for tone of voice, which is key to understanding others. Unlike most POV characters that do assess the eye movements, facial expressions, and body language of others, Brienne focuses on mechanical movement and misinterprets subtle facial expressions, if she notices them at all. If she does pick up on social cues, they have to be blatantly obvious. So not to say she's unintelligent, but there seems to be an impairment there, which has an impact on her ability to accurately judge others. She does have a general mistrust of men, especially based on her life experience, but that is not the same as having good sense of what makes an individual trustworthy or untrustworthy. Sweet Sunray goes into more detailed examples of these patterns here, as both Brienne may have a pragmatic language impairment. Okay.
well,
That's an interesting read.
I think just all being, basically new to the world outside of her home.
Yeah, she's supposed to be naive, and it's probably true that George has written her such that she's constantly misreading people. I think that's accurate. Good evening, chat. Old new dude, Richard. Good to have you here, Kirsty.
Hey,
Brand's A Feast for Crows arc is almost a parody of the Knight Errant story. The White Knight is supposed to be the perfect hero to rescue the maiden. George would seem to have it otherwise. As one of the most honest, noble, pure-intentioned characters in the books, as well as an excellent warrior, her skill set could not be worse for going up against the likes of Peter Baelish. Consider how deftly he outmaneuvered the Lord's Declarant, who thought to oust him with direct confrontation, noble intentions, and show of military force. Even when she gives her best attempt at playing the deception game, she's plainly transparent. She tries to claim that she isn't looking for Sansa, but an unnamed sister that looks exactly like Sansa. Shadrach calls her bluff in seconds. This is exactly the reason that he can't ally himself with her. She places trust in the wrong people, and she can't lie. And again, Shadrach warns her that Creighton is not what he seems. The following quotes are from Brienne 1, A Feast for Crows. I am searching for my sister. She dare not mention Sansa's name with her accused of regicide. She's a highborn maiden, beautiful, with blue eyes and auburn hair. Perhaps you saw her with a portly knight of 40 years or a drunken fool. The roads are full of drunken fools and despoiled maidens. As to portly knights, it's hard for any honest man to keep his belly round when so many lack for food. Though your Sir Creighton is not hungered, it would seem. So Sir Shadrach laughed. Oh, I doubt that. There's a dot 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 there basically, or a dash. Sir Shadrach laughed. Oh, I doubt that. But it may be that you and I share a quest. A little lost sister, is it? With blue eyes and auburn hair? He laughed again. You're not the only hunter in the woods. I seek for Sansa Stark as well. Brienne kept her face a mask to hide her dismay. Who is this Sansa Stark, and why do you seek her? Brienne may keep her face straight and doesn't mention Sansa by name, but she gave herself away easily. She mentions the description of Dantos, portly knight or drunken fool. Also, if she doesn't know who Sansa Stark is, why does she care what Shadrach's intentions are toward her? I know no Sansa Stark, she insisted. I'm searching for my sister, a highborn girl, with blue eyes and auburn hair. Aye. Pray, who is this knight who travels with your sister? Or did you name him Fool? Sir Shadrach did not wait for her answer, which was good, since she had none. A certain fool vanished from King's Landing the night King Joffrey died. A stout fellow with a nose full of broken veins, one Sir Dantos the Red, formerly of Duskendale. I pray your sister and her drunken fool are not mistaken for the Stark girl and Sir Dantos. That would be most unfortunate. He put his heels into his courser and trotted on ahead. LMAO, this hurts, said the Lady Thistle. Indeed, she isn't fooling anyone. Now that we've looked at Brienne's limitations as an unreliable narrator and complete ineptitude for subterfuge and detective work, we need to look at Shadrach himself for clues to his intentions. Let's go back to this quote. I, love of gold. Unlike your good Sir Creighton, I did fight upon the black water, but on the loosened side. My ransom ruined me. You know who Varys is, I trust. The eunuch has offered a plump bag of gold for this girl you've never heard of. I am not a greedy man. If some oversized wench would help me find this naughty child, I would split the spider's coin with her. Shadrach also claimed that he was on the losing side of the Blackwater and that his ransom ruined him, as his reasons for hunting Sansa Stark. It doesn't quite make sense that a man as shrewd as Shadrach would be so forthcoming with his personal ruined situation and offering to split the reward with Brienne, someone he just met only minutes ago. Why would he even think at that point that this stranger would I think that's just a typo with the A there, would merit a split of the reward. He also gives no details of who captured him or to whom he paid his ransom to. It's a seemingly plausible but unverifiable backstory. This exchange seems to be more about Shadrach sussing out Brienne's intentions rather than the other way around. Creighton and Illifer he had figured out within seconds. His curiosity must have piqued when he meets a lady warrior point blank asking anyone she meets if they've seen her nameless sister is obviously Sansa Stark. Again, he has to warn Brienne she isn't the only hunter in the woods. Keep in mind, it had not even occurred to Brienne at this point that other people would start their search for Sansa and Dantos at Duskendale, where the Hollards had previously served House Darkland. Shadrach had to spell this out for her. This will later be confirmed by the Maester in Brienne 2, when she reaches the castle that several have already been there, including the Goldcloaks. Duskendale was exactly where Creighton and Illifer said they were headed. Even they had sense enough not to discuss openly their purpose there, yet their destination should have been enough to make someone think they might be going there for the same reason as Brienne. It's Shadrach she calls unsavory. But what has Shadrach actually done that was so unsavory? Has he been threatening? No. He called her a wench. Jaime's done that. He mentions the bounty, but he repeatedly hints to her that her companions are frauds, true, and that the way she is going about her search is hopelessly inept, also true. It seems like the worst that Shadrach actually does is make her feel foolish. This initial exchange with Shadrach reveals that plainly. He then was most likely mentioning the Blackwater, his financial ruin, and the split of the reward to give himself a plausible backstory and motivation. Also, he's likely trying to bait Brienne with promise of the reward to provoke a response. Although he can see she's not tempted by gold and would genuinely help Sansa, she would be a liability with her other limitations. This becomes even more apparent later when we find out Shadrick manages to enter Littlefinger's service and spend months at the Gates of the Moon without raising any suspicion. It's also an early hint that Shadrick is looking for the right allies for a special ops team. As great a warrior and as good a person as she is, she's unfit for a covert mission to find and retrieve the most wanted girl in Westeros. This scene is a perfect example of the recurring theme of ravens versus Baelor's doves that Jerem often gives us. One seems ideal, like a white knight on a noble quest, but it are really the clever and bold that are better equipped for the task, like a mad mouse and his crew. While love of gold and plump bag of gold may point to avarice, this also isn't the first time gold is associated with the Stark Girl, and it relates directly to the helper Sandor Clegane. At the turning of the hand, the day after Sandor reveals the secret of his scars to Sansa, and she responds compassionately, Sandor saves Sir Loras from being killed by Gregor Clegane. In turn, he is declared the winner, which Sansa knew the Hound would win, and receives the purse of 40,000 gold dragons. He also loses that purse when it's taken by the Brotherhood without banners. In return, Sandor steals Arya from them with the plan of returning her to her family. Greenbeard, who also has the same idea but strictly for ransom, also refers to Arya as a golden squirrel. Sandor is firmly established as a character that cares little for gold any more than he does titles, so this bag of dragons is important to him for what it represents and the reasons he won it, not just its monetary value or practical use. The Gold, Stark Girls, and Sandor associations continue again in The Winds of Winter with this exchange between Shadrick and Elaine Stone. There's more to their scene than this, but let's focus on these connections first. Elaine turned abruptly from the yard and bumped into a short, sharp-faced man with a brush of orange hair come up behind her. His hand shot out and caught her arm before she could fall. "My lady, my pardons if I took you unawares." A good melee is all a hedge knight can hope for, unless he stumbles on a bag of dragons, and that's not likely, is it? The only other person who catches Sansa by the arm to stop her from falling is Sandor, especially after she bumps into him. It happens twice in memorable scenes, once on the Serpentine Steps and once the night before the Blackwater. In the above scene, Shadrick appears suddenly behind her after Sansa engages in an increasingly tense conversation with Lyn Corbray, a violent, quick-tempered man. Shadrick, seeing the danger approaches, and positions himself to accidentally bump into Sansa, drawing her away from Sir Lyn. As if that wasn't a clue enough that we should be thinking in terms of linking Shadrick to Sandor, then we also have Shadrick equating Sansa to a bag of dragons, which we've already established makes a literal and literary connection between Sandor and both Stark girls. Also, another tiny detail. Sir Shadrick is described as having a very similar scar beneath his ear, the same as Hyle Hunt. Using wordplay to simultaneously express honestly and to obscure one's true thoughts is a hallmark of Sandor's way of speaking, often termed Sandor speak in the fandom. A few good examples of this are here where he's definitely not referring to Joffrey but himself. Also here where he's deliberately obscuring if he's referring to a man needing a woman or both women and men needing wine. Shadrick also does this in his quip to Sir Creighton. So anyway, these are all links to previous posts by people about examples of this form of communication. After listening to him boast in the inn. In this sense, if we look at Shadrick claiming to be searching for Sansa for love, why else? It actually can be meant honestly before he pivots to love of gold in order to test Brienne's reaction. And we've talked about how George does this.
Oh, yeah.
From the pattern, and Shadrick referring to Sansa as a bag of dragons, love of gold can just as easily mean love of Ned's daughter, too. We have one last feature of Sir Shadrick that he has in common with other known helpers and Stark allies in the Song of Ice and Fire series. He rides a chestnut courser. We talked about this recently. After saving Sansa from the mob and the bread riot of King's Landing, Sandor mounts upon Sansa's chestnut courser to carry her back to safety. Brendan the Blackfish Tully also rides one. So does Brienne's helper Hyle Hunt, who rides with her on her quest to find Sansa. It's established many times over that GRM uses horses to reflect traits of the rider, named or unnamed. If we can prove 3 of these 4 are helpers, and these are the only times a chestnut courser is ridden, it stands to reason that Sir Shadrick will also fit this pattern. And there are other chestnut horses, as we've mentioned, for Bran and for Arya, and she mentions these, and then it turns out that I had stopped when I got to the one by Rickard Riswell, but But Ash also rides a chestnut horse. Here for a bit. Hey, good to see you, the Valankar, one of our oldest fans.
Yes, the original OG. Hey, I got a quick thing before I forget, because you know how I am.
Sure, go ahead.
Varys promising a plump bag of gold. Could that be Tyrick himself? Golden hair.
Oh, interesting.
Possibly Varys.
Interesting.
Varys might be responsible or in some way for the glamour.
Or he could be aware that that if we can get Sansa Stark, we can find Tyreek. That'd be interesting. If he actually knows where they are, and he's it's a hint. Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. As soon as you said it, and I'm trying to the
yeah, you've been trying to look for clues that maybe this is actually supposed to be Tyreek. Yeah, sure.
Well, no, I'm just trying to think way outside the box when it comes to George.
No, you were saying you wanted to see is this associated with the Lannisters? Is Sandor associated with the Lannisters? And the fact it's tied to a bag of gold, maybe. Other possible hints at his solidarity with Sansa Stark are in his shock of orange hair and in the sigil upon his shield. Sir Shadrack was a wry, fox-faced man with a sharp nose and a shock of orange hair. Sir Shadrack of the Shady Glen. Some call me the Mad Mouse. He turned his shield to show her his sigil, a huge white mouse with fierce red eyes on bendy brown and blue. The brown is for the lands I've roamed, the blue for the rivers that I've crossed. The mouse is me. While it is possible that someone could naturally have a very bright shade of copper that would appear orange, this may actually be from hair dye. Hair dye is something that is well known in the series. Tyroshi men use it for flamboyant decoration, but in Westeros it is most commonly used by characters for disguise in numerous examples. Sansa's hair is dyed chestnut brown, possibly drawing a connection to the chestnut coursers to hide her true identity. Sansa will note Shadrack's face is aged, so it's very likely his natural hair color may have at least some gray. A person with a significant amount of gray tries to dye their hair a pure red or copper shade, the white hairs appear much brighter and less natural. Reds can appear even pinkish, and copper could appear a shocking orange. While the orange may seem overly conspicuous a choice, it may be a sign of solidarity with Sansa's natural hair that is lighter and more coppery than her mother's. The orange connection to helpfulness will turn up again repeatedly in Brienne's arc in the form of Septon Maribald's rare and costly oranges. Brienne also purchased an orange for Podrick, a rare treat gifted as an act of kindness toward him. These are not the blood oranges of Littlefinger or Prince Doran. The Septon gives them away out of kindness and charity to the common people of Riverlands. Their monetary value means nothing to him. This is purely a loving act. The connection to Shadrack's hair may reinforce the idea he is indeed there for love, and Sansa's ransom actually means nothing to him. So Shadrack, as a shocking orange, may mean he is coming in the most unlikely and surprising of ways. Whether naturally or unnaturally orange, Shadrack's hair color seems symbolically significant when we look at the shield connection. The white mouse with the fierce red eyes upon Shadrack's shield is a blatant weirwood face and color reference. This demands our attention that he has some affiliation with northern First Men culture, which is very strange if Shadrack is passing himself off as a knight, even a hedge knight. Knighthood is mainly part of Southron and Andal culture and a rarity in the north. Such an unusual sigil in this context should provoke many questions of Shadrack's backstory. Tying that to his hair color, there's also a connection to being kissed by fire, and weirwood leaves have been compared to flames, like this example here, and of course there's tons of those examples. Jira makes a connection to specifically copper hair and a burning tree with Adam Marbrand. Adam is one of 3 people in the books described as having specifically copper hair, along with Sansa, who has a weirwood connection by heritage, and all the Stark children being wargs, as confirmed by GRRM, and Melisandre, who is definitely connected to burning weirwoods, as well as statues of the Seven and human sacrifice. Fire in weirwood mythology and in the books appears many times over as divine knowledge of the gods or the fire of the gods. Biblical Shadrack, as already mentioned, has a connection to fire by being directly protected by God in the fiery furnace. There will be a closer examination of Shadrack's sigil when we look at Howland Reed, but for now, we can safely say there's enough evidence here to start considering Shadrack an ally to Sansa, no matter if he has another identity or not. But this begs a very important question. If Sir Shadrack is a helper and ally, then why is he a helper and ally? What does Sansa Stark mean to him? Why would a mere hedge knight nobody do this for love if he doesn't have some pre-existing association with House Stark? To reveal Shadrick's identity, we need to look for someone deeply emotionally connected to House Stark and who has connections to the old gods. The next few parts will be focusing on the cases for the individuals, but we'll definitely not be leaving it there. Some physical descriptions and some parallels are simply not enough evidence to rely on. If the three are a team, it is equally important to present evidence for the team as a whole working towards a common objective. Part 3, the case for Howland Reed. There's a temptation to look at the physical descriptions of Mira and Jojen as a basis for Howland's appearance to disqualify him from being Shadrick outright. Mira and Jojen are described as having brown hair and green eyes. There's no mention of either having, that's not true, right? One's left out. There's no mention of either having fox-like features on their faces. Keep in mind, they do also have a mother, who they may favor over their father. She's listed in the Feast of Crows appendix as being Joanna Reed, Howland's wife. It is perfectly reasonable that Howland could actually look completely different than his children. This is Mira Reed's telling of the little Crannogman story that is obviously her father from Brand 2 of the Storm of Swords, and note Howland's traits. Hey guys, the Green Bard is here. Hey, Gee.
Hey. Anybody that's new to the channel that we picked up here in the last couple of weeks, the Green Bard is without a doubt he's your friend. He has a really good channel. Definitely recommend checking him out for sure.
Yeah, he's done some analysis of the direwolves and the dragons and the connections that they have, but he also does some great songs, and anyway, yeah, definitely check him out. We'll see if Ashara is their mother. Howland Reed and Peter Baelish could literally be twins in physical description. Okay.
Yeah, and he said like, Littlefinger's like pinched face.
He's definitely small. Yeah. Let's go through it. We're right here. Let's go ahead and read this. He was small like all Crannogmen, but brave and smart and strong as well. He grew up hunting and fishing and climbing trees and learned all the magics of my people. Grim was almost certain he'd never heard this story. Did he have green dreams like Jojen? No, said Mira, but he could breathe mud and run on leaves and change earth to water and water to earth with no more than a whispered word. He could talk to trees and weave words and make castles appear and disappear. And we've talked about they are very mousy. Yes, good call, Bob. And we've talked about how they that could refer to glamour.
Yeah, well, I also think that it is the earth to water, water to earth, and that may 50-50. The Tower of Joy got turned to water to just disappear the whole damn thing. Or
I don't think I have seen your Loving video. Sorry, the Green Bard is saying that he has a his latest. He says, "Thanks for the shout out, guys. Did you see my latest Lemongate video? Also, I'm working on another zombie Halloween episode. Oh, nice.
Oh,
but
cool. No, I didn't.
No, I definitely have to check that out.
Oh, I gotta write down my homework.
I don't seem to get notifications for anything I sign up for anymore.
No.
I wore that short shirt for it too, he says.
All right, we're good.
The lad knew the magics of the Crannogs, she continued, but he wanted more. Our people seldom travel far from home, you know. We're a small folk, and our ways seem queer to some. So the big people do not always treat us kindly. But this lad was bolder than most. And one day, when he'd grown to manhood, he decided he would leave the Crannogs and visit the Isle of Faces. No one visits the Isle of Faces, objected Bran. That's where the Green Men live. It was the Green Men he meant to find. All that winter, the Crannogman stayed in the Isle. But when the spring broke, he heard the wide world calling and knew the time had come to leave. His skin boat was just where he'd left it, so he said his farewells and paddled off toward shore. Howland Reed is set apart from the average Crannogman. He knows all the hunting and survival skills of the Crannog, as well as all their magic. He does not have Jojen's green dreams, but he has an impressive magical repertoire, and this is prior to his time on the Isle of Faces. He does not stay close to home like other Crannog out of fear of larger people, as he is bolder than most. He has ambition to learn even more magic. Upon manhood, and bolder than most is in quotes, right? Because of course, that's the Mad Mouse that doesn't, he runs towards danger. Upon manhood, He travels to stay a whole winter season with the Green Men on the Isle of Faces in the center of the lake called the God's Eye to learn their secrets. Howland must have been exceptional to have been allowed this privilege, because as Bran says, no one visits the Isle of Faces. The Isle is one of the few last known places in southern Westeros to have a living weirwood grove, not just individual trees. As a quick review of some Dawn Age history, it is said that the Isle of Faces is the site of the children calling down the Hammer of the Waters to break the arm of Dorne to stop further invasion of First Men from Essos. There's some speculation that this particular form of magic involved blood sacrifice. While stopping the tide of First Men was too late, the demonstration of power apparently brought about the Pact for peace made on the Isle of Faces between the children and the First Men. This starts the beginning of the Age of Heroes. The same magic is probably the cause of the flooding of the neck where the Crannogmen currently live. This caused a natural barrier to invasion from the south. There's legend of Crannogmen being small stature because of possible post-intermarriage with the children of the forest. Past intermarriage, sorry. You should also note that young Howland was able to travel alone through hostile Frey territory unseen. He passed beneath the twins by night so the Freys would not attack him, and when he reached the Trident, he climbed from the river and put his boat on his head and began to walk. It took him many a day, but finally he reached the God's Eye, threw his boat in the lake, and paddled out to the Isle of Faces. Even lugging a boat around over land for several days, this is testimony to the skill level of the Crannog in stealthy movement and living off the land. Mira and Jojen's skill sets would appear to confirm this. Her hunting has kept Bran and company living off the land as they move north in search of the three-eyed raven. They also haven't been found out by any hostile parties along the way. Looking at what Jojen says about Mira and what Mira says about the little Crannogmen, we see many overlaps. It's funny they made a pact with the children of the forest. It makes me think of packed dirt like a mound. Okay.
Nice.
The gods give many gifts, Bran. My sister is a hunter. It is given to her to run swiftly and stand so still she seems to vanish. She has sharp ears, keen eyes, a steady hand with net and spear. She can breathe mud and fly through trees. I could not do these things, no more than you could. To me, the gods gave the green dreams, and to you, you could be more than me, Bran. You are the winged wolf, and there is no saying how far and high you might fly. If you had something to teach you, how can I help you master a gift I do not understand? We remember the first men in the neck, and the children of the forest who were their friends. But so much is forgotten, and so much we never knew.
But standing so
That's
still,
interesting.
she
She can
vanishes.
breathe mud and he can't.
Yeah.
She can vanish and he can't.
Well, the
Littlefinger
standing
has
so
gray green
still that
eyes. Peter, Pete, Mossy Pete of the marshes, maybe. Again, the breathing mud and flying through trees, and what those things may actually mean, we will be exploring later, is mentioned again. Mira has clearly inherited the survival and hunting skills of her father, and Jojen has inherited a more mystical gift, even if Howland does not possess the power of prophetic dreams. We also know of Howland Reed's involvement of the events of the tourney at Harrenhal, where he first met and befriended Brandon, Ned, Lyanna, and Benjen Stark. He was beaten and bullied by dishonorable squires for being a small-statured Crannogman. It was Lyanna Stark in particular that drove off the offending squires, who insisted that he attend the tourney feast, gave him a place among the Starks on the dais. It's also Lyanna that is widely believed to be the Knight of the Laughing Tree, avenged Howland and earned his undying loyalty to House Stark and Lyanna in particular. Mira explains as a Crannog, he would not have the skill set needed to joust to avenge himself. That Howland Reed cannot compete as a tourney knight is a very important fact that the author makes very clear. Howland's loyalty to House Stark will be demonstrated in his service to Ned Stark in Robert's Rebellion and attempting to rescue Lyanna from the Tower of Joy. They failed to reach Lyanna in time to save her. I believe Howland would be particularly motivated to save her niece, especially at the Vale tourney, where it would be the inverse of Harrenhal. A Crannogman disguised as a knight saves a Stark girl. In the Sworn Sword, they discuss how difficult it is for a group of men to tear down a small dam. Imagine how difficult a tower would be. And yet they had a guy with them who could make a tower disappear.
Yep.
Through magic.
Yep.
Now let's take a pause before continuing to compare this to what we know of Sir Shadrick and compare him to Howland Reed. They're both small statured but proportional. Sansa says Shadrick is so short he might have been taken for a squire. So he could be mistaken for a youth if you didn't see his aged face. Even 16-year-old Mira is described as being scarcely taller than almost 9-year-old Bran. Shadrach is then consistent with typical Kranich body type. Alright, what's this? Mud Dungeon Magic. I really like the theory, guys. Gotta run now. Alright, well, good to have you here, Gee. I'll check out the channel today, GB. The Green Bard, yes. Alright. The Mad Mouse is so named not because he is literally mentally ill, as Brienne asks, because he is a contradiction. He's not a typical mouse. Your common mouse will run from blood and battle. The Mad Mouse seeks him out, he tells her. So, like the little Kranich men, he is bold and brave. They both are not typical of their own kind, whether it be mice or the shy Kranich people. They're both unafraid of danger and experienced fighters. We don't know exact details, but we do know that Howland Reed played a key role in Ned Stark surviving the Tower of Joy and the death of Arthur Dane, noted as one of the greatest warriors of his day. The death, anyway. I think he reminded the Kingsguard of the Rouse, but anyway, to crown them is to kill them. They're both well traveled, even through hostile enemy territory. Howland Reed traveling alone and undetected through Freylands at about 16 years old. He's also traveled over great distances in his service to Eddard Stark during Robert's Rebellion. Sir Shadrach references the device on his shield to point to his travels. Sir Shadrach of the Shady Glen. Some call me the Mad Mouse. He turned his shield to show her his sigil. A large white mouse with fierce red eyes on bendy brown and blue. The brown is for the lands I've roamed, the blue for the rivers that I've crossed. The mouse is me. So the name Shady Glen is an interesting choice to claim to hail from as well. Shady Glen appears to be a play on Duskin and Dale, both roughly meaning a darkened or shaded valley. Duskendale is also the location of the historic, daring one-man rescue operation of Sir Barristan Selby the Bold, who infiltrates the castle to rescue King Aerys from Lord Darkland's dungeons. Lord Tywin Lannister gave Barristan a day to execute his rescue mission before sacking the city. Selby recalls he left at the hour of the wolf and returned at the hour of the wolf, successfully saving his king. He refers to this event as his finest hour. Sir Shadrach is obviously not alone when Brienne first meets him. He's with the merchant Highbald and his servants, but says he's only traveling with them as far as Duskendale. Why not alone? Because he's traveling to a large town, not an off-the-grid island. For practical reasons, there's not only some safety in numbers when traveling on main roads, but also there's news and gossip to be found by fellow travelers passing by or at inns. By the time we meet Shadrach again at the Gates of the Moon, we know he's traveled and tracked quite a distance to exactly the right place. This is very much like how Howland Reed left the Isle of Faces at the most auspicious time to arrive at Harrenhal for the historically significant tourney. Now in the Winds of Winter we have the tourney of the Winged Knights on the horizon. Exactly how Shadrach finds his way to Sansa will be explored in the timeline of events. We should also note that guys like Shadrach and Podrick are reeks in a sense. Theon's story has implications for how this body hopping magic is performed. Okay.
Yeah, and don't forget, we theorized that the reason Shadrach is with the merchant and the 6 guards carrying ash staffs is because Ned's bones are
right. Toodles says that even the name of Highbald in the history of the Quiet Isle and parallels imply, and in fact, there's one of Ned's guards is supposed to be alive and is part of these was there 6 of them with him, something like that?
Yeah.
7 if you count Ned, I suppose.
Yeah.
The swampy ground beyond the causeway. Sorry. The breathing mud ability attributed to Howland Reed is most likely referring to how well adapted the Kranich are in the harsh environment of the neck. Anyone else would easily get hopelessly lost. Knights have drowned in the bogs, and there are poisonous plants and lizard lions. They are disparaged for seeming to live in a primitive manner in an uncivilized place, but they've made this place home for thousands of years. This is what Theon describes of the neck and how dangerous it is. The swampy ground beyond the causeway was impassable, an endless morass of suckholes, quicksands, and glistening green swards that looked solid to the unwary eye. but turn to water the instant you tread upon them. The whole have been infested with venomous serpents and poisonous flowers and monstrous lizard lions with teeth like daggers, just as dangerous were its people. Seldom seen, but always lurking, the swamp dwellers, the frog eaters, the mudmen. This is precisely the talent one needs for navigating the mud and sinkholes that surround the quiet isle at low tide. In Brienne 5, Maribald warns Podrick to stay off the mud, as it will open up and swallow you if you step in the wrong place. Maribald is experienced with coming to the Isle for many years, so he knows how to get to the Isle on foot safely. It's a long, winding path guided by feeling around the mud with his staff first. This should be nothing for Howland Reed, who's been navigating through more dangerous mud his entire life. No ferry to the Isle necessary. We should also be drawing a connection between Shadrack's weirwood-colored mouse sigil and to the Knight of the Laughing Tree's weirwood sigil shield. Both the Mad Mouse and the Laughing Tree sigils are contradictions. Actual weirwoods are not depicted as smiling or laughing. Their carved-out expressions are supposed to look pained or frightening. The events of the Mystery Knight avenging Howland also remind us that he cannot avenge himself because he is not a Turning Knight. Now look at Sir Shadrack's statements about himself. "'Tis true, I am no Turning Knight. I saved my valor for the battlefield, woman." In the Winds of Winter, Elaine's sample chapter, Miranda Royce asks him if he'll be competing in the joust for a position in Robert Arryn's Winged Knights. "Will you be seeking wings?" the voice girl said. "A mouse with wings would be a silly sight." "Perhaps you'll try the melee instead," Elaine suggested. The melee was an afterthought, a sop for all the brothers, uncles, fathers, and friends who would accompany the competitors to the gates of the moon to see them win their silver wings. But there would be prizes for the champions, and a chance to win ransoms. A good melee is all a hedge knight can hope for. Unless he stumbles on a bag of dragons, and that's not likely, is it? So again, no jousting for Sir Shadrack. Right, and somebody needs to tell Preston, because he's writing a fanfic and he doesn't seem to get this. Littlefinger equals Pinky swear equals promise me Ned. Lyanna also means the Grey Lady. Peter was involved at the Tower of Joy 100%. Lyanna also means lion, lizard lion. Her and Littlefinger are tied to lions. Interesting. I mean, we've talked about some of that before because Kirsty's brought it up before.
Yeah.
His skill set is for the battlefield or melee. We'll be exploring the importance and parallels between tourneys later, but this exchange between Shadrack and Sansa has some very interesting wordplay. A mouse with wings being a silly sight seems to be a twist on the connections to bats in Sansa's arc and her went grandmother on Catelyn's side. Bat is often humorously, albeit inaccurately, called a flying mouse, especially in the old German word for bat, Fledermaus. Sansa has compared a fluttering inside her to swallowing a bat, and she was rumored to escape the Purple Wedding by turning herself into a wolf with bat wings. Bats are also on the sigil of House Went, who hosted the aforementioned tourney at Harrenhal. Also, the bat is the sigil of the much maligned House Lothston, previous owners of Harrenhal before the Wents, who once served them. This has led many to reasonably speculate that Sansa's future arc may somehow intersect with Harrenhal, owing to these connections as well as the fact that Littlefinger is the current Lord of Harrenhal. The last Lothston, red-haired Mad Danelle, was mysteriously brought down by most likely false or grossly over-exaggerated accusations of dark sorcery, child kidnapping, murder, and cannibalism. This is not unlike Sansa being rumored to use sorcery to kill Joffrey and escape the Red Keep. Danelle is also connected to Bloodraven, known sorcerer and Greenseer, in the Mystery Knight novella. So there's a Kissed by Fire magic, bats, and Harrenhal connection with the Mad moniker as well. The importance of this cannot be overstated. Sir Shadrack's shield is a direct reference to the old gods, Weirwoods, the Harrenhal tourney, and the Knight of the Laughing Tree. It's the pivotal moment that earns Howland Reed's fierce loyalty to the Starks. That generation of Starks stood up for him, befriended him, and treated him as an equal. Except for a brief mention of being at the Tower of Joy, GRM has not featured Howland Reed in any other story except the tourney at Harrenhal. When Howland Reed re-enters the story, it makes literary sense for the author to establish him with Harrenhal and old gods references. I read Knight of the Laughing Tree as Knight of Ashara's Ashura tree with laughing, haunting eyes. Yeah, yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
See Triple Chickens, episode 1. Anyway. The flying mouse motif may point to a larger idea connecting connected to weirwoods and magic. Children of the forest have been described as squirrels by the giants. Arya herself has been called a squirrel many times. Bran draws comparisons to Arya in both Mirror Reed and one of the children who he will call Leaf. Squirrels do fit that motif if we consider the way they can flit among tree branches with ease, as well as there being a species called a flying squirrel. This comes full circle with Mira and Helen being able to fly through trees and run on leaves. Also note that Shadrick's sigil colors are on a bendy, the same as House Lawston, and both with a mouse related to magic at its center. It's well known that Jerem has drawn upon Yggdrasil from Norse mythology with his weirwood concept. There's a squirrel related to Yggdrasil named Ratatoskr, something like that, who acts as a messenger running up and down the tree between an unnamed eagle at the top and the worm, Niogr, I can't even begin to pronounce, I don't even know what those letters are. At the roots, very much like the dragon Bloodraven is seated at the weirwood's roots. We can also make magical associations to another animal Sir Shadrick is connected to, the fox. Shadrick has a fox-like face and fox-orange hair. He also comes across as being sly and cunning. Foxes in real-world folklore have been connected to magic, illusion, and deception, such as the Japanese kitsune. There's also the very popular medieval folk tales of Reynard the Fox, which Gerard was definitely familiar with. They were so popular, Reynard came to replace the old French word for fox. Reynard is an anthropomorphic fox character and trickster figure whose stories usually involve him deceiving or cunningly escaping other anthropomorphic animal characters. His character is often used in parodies of medieval courtly love and chansons de gestes, or songs of heroic deeds. Think Shadrick's meeting Brienne on her helpless quest to rescue Sansa, as well as satire of political and religious institutions. Arya's old dad's daughter confirmed. Okay. There's some very interesting parallels between Reynard and Howland Reed. Reynard's castle home is called Maleperduus, which is described as having hidden tunnels, entrances, and exits, and confusing pathways to elude his enemies from finding him. This is strikingly similar to descriptions of Greywater Watch, Howland's seat, which is built to move elusively. He can make castles appear and disappear and cannot be found by outsiders or ravens. The name Reynard is theorized to have derived from the Old Germanic man's name, Reginald. The word Regin, meaning divine powers of the Old Germanic religion, plus hard, meaning made hard by the gods. It could also mean Regin plus hearty, or strong counsel, denoting someone wise and clever. There is solid proof Yoram is familiar with the Reynard stories. In the story of Tywin Lannister obliterating House Rain, Tywin drives Sir Reynard Rain and his people into the mining tunnels of Castamere, very much like Maleperduus, but with a tragic end. To the ignorant eye, Castamere seemed a modest holding. We can probably skip this. This is all just sort of part of the other side. So anyway, we all know the Castamere story. One Reynard story that has parallels with Shadrick's role in Sansa's arc and has the familiar feature of clever wordplay is in one where he tricks Bruin the Bear, a likely Lothar Bruin connection. Bruin is made captain of the guards by Peter, so he is in command over the Hedge Knights. In this story, Reynard steals Bruin's honey, which calls back to the bear in the Maiden Fair, or butter, depending on the telling. First, Reynard comes to live with Bruin, like entering service at the Gates of the Moon, and pretends to leave to attend a christening. He's really going to sneak back into the house to eat some honey. When Bruin asks him what the baby's christened name was, he replies, "Just begun." A second time, he says he needs to attend a christening. He does the same thing and tells Bruin the baby's name was Half-Eaten. Same scenario happens a third time, with the baby's name being All Gone, at which point Bruin realizes his honey, as a symbol of Sansa, that he was supposed to be guarding, is now gone. And even more importantly to note, one of Reynard's primary adversaries in his stories is a wolf character dressed up in monk's robes named Isengrim, who is not particularly pious and is used as a parody of the church. This is some obvious parallels to Sandor's the Gravedigger, and the strange bedfellow relationship between the two will make even more sense when we explore Brienne's journey through the Riverlands on a symbolic level in Part 6. If there's any doubt about Howland Reed's continued deeply personal devotion to House Stark, consider this. Howland Reed sent his only children, his only heirs, alone to aid Bran and Rickon after Ned was executed. This is more than the loyalty of vassal to liege lord. This decision was based on a green dream of Jojen's, which shows not only their commitment to Ned's children and also their faith in the mystical for guidance. The Reed's role in the story is not only to protect, but also offer their knowledge of the old gods' magic and mysticism. Jojen and Mira get Bran to the Three-Eyed Raven so that he can fully realize his power as a Green Seer and a warg. Robb has his army, his mother, and Grey Wind. Jon has Ghost and his own arc in the north. Bran has Mira, Jojen, Hodor, and Summer. Rickon has Osha and Shaggy Dog. Arya is lost and presumed dead after Ned's execution. Sansa is the one Stark child that is alone in enemy hands and who desperately needs allies. We don't know the details of Jojen's green dream that he shared with his father, but it does not make sense that Howland Reed would send his children to Winterfell and he would stay in the Neck. His wife Lyanna would still be at Greywater Watch during the War of the Five Kings. Recall that Shadrack said he was at Blackwater and was on the losing side of the battle. Does that mean Howland Reed had fought for Stannis? Perhaps, as Ned believes Stannis was Robert's rightful heir. There is no indication in our comparison of Howland and Shadrack that his motives are remotely political. Sansa is imprisoned in Maegor's Holdfast, the castle within a castle, where the royal family and Hand and the King have their chambers. Even if there was a way for Sir Shadrack to enter the castle, it's highly unlikely he could get so far inside the Red Keep and get Sansa out undetected. If Stannis had succeeded in sacking King's Landing, Sansa would likely then be moved from the Red Keep to Stannis' camp, potentially presenting the opportunity to rescue her. This did not happen, hence being on the losing side for the lost opportunity, forcing him to wait patiently for another to arise. It won't be until the Purple Wedding on the first day of the year 300 that Sansa finally escapes and disappears. But she's headed for her next prison, not freedom. There's a hint to how her prayers will be answered when Sansa is changing clothes and the gods would escape King's Landing. Sansa felt as though she were in a dream. Joffrey is dead, she told the trees, to see if this would wake her. Thanatos is not the real Florian, and this is no true escape. The true answer to her prayers and her freedom will be connected to the old gods and Tree Talker, as Mira says her father is. The Green Dream, Ned's death, the bonds of friendship forged at the Harrenhal tourney, and the failure to save Lyanna in time at the Tower of Joy are more than enough reason for Howland Reed to head to King's Landing. All right, let's stop there.
Yeah.
And also as assassin of the Laughing Tree, cannabis. Hasha. Okay. Peter is described as having laughing eyes as well. Aha! Well, there's an example of laughing eyes that we didn't cover.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, no, I didn't search for that. Anyway, okay. We did say eyes wet and shiny seems to be, in addition to Quaithe, it's Lancel Lannister, right?
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Well, let's wrap up for now.
We got
Pretty good stop time.
Yeah. Davos 4 on Friday. Thank y'all for joining us. We appreciate it. And I'm a little off my game today. I'm kind of tired, but we do appreciate y'all joining us. It was definitely a cool comment, and thanks to the Green Bar for popping in for a minute. We missed seeing him play and sing.
Oh my God! Did I miss your homework? Oh, we didn't really do it, other than that brief talk at the half hour on that Friday afterwards.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we didn't really do anything. Well, we did talk about. We did mention that Lancel has wet and shiny eyes, and anyway, good day. Like the video. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Bob.
Right. We appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your hump day.
Green Bard.
Friday.
Everybody else. Anyway, yeah. Have a good one. Bye.
All right. Bye. Bye, y'all.